Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining my brief meeting today. It's a 5-minute summary of how we can use culture to shape our business communication preferences. We are going to compare and contrast the norms between the US and Canada, focusing today on the written and spoken communication, meetings, and decision making, and then just some adaptations that we can do to help with our new Canadian colleagues. So first, we need to know a little background about Canada. So you need to do a little bit of research. Obviously, they're the second largest by land country in the world, located in North America. They do have several official languages. They are English and French. So knowing that if you're in Quebec, they're going to mainly speak French. If you're in other provinces, English is preferred. And they also are famous for their stunning landscapes, wildlife, friendly people. They're known to be friendly. A little bit about the culture, which you'll want to do a deeper dive on yourself, is just knowing about the cuisine. Hockey's the favorite pastime, a little bit about their French, British, Indigenous culture and heritage, but knowing also about the marked differences between the business and the US. And since we're limited to 5 minutes today, we're going to go ahead and go right to it. So, written communication styles. So, in Canada, they're very polite and inclusive. So, Canadian business communication emphasizes politeness and inclusivity. Emails, documents are usually written in a friendly but respectful tone, whereas in the US, we're usually a little bit more casual and right to the point, which can sometimes be looked at as unfriendly or not being kind because we're right to the main topic quickly. So we got to take that into account. Also, Canadians value detail and well-structured written communication, providing a lot of context and explanations. Americans generally are wanting just bullet points and summaries and right to the point. So, adapting, we can, with our Canadian colleagues, maintain a polite and friendly tone, ensure that our communication is detailed and well structured without, and make sure that we're giving background information, but don't be overly casual. Next, we're going to talk about the spoken communication preferences. So, obviously, just like in writing, speaking in Canada is a little bit different as well. They are polite but indirect, whereas in the US, we're pretty direct when we're speaking with people, especially in different areas of the country. So, keeping in mind that Canadians often use a more polite and direct style of communication, they avoid confrontation, they emphasize harmony. So we have to keep that in mind as Americans often use a more engaging, persuasive style, incorporating like stories, trying to have anecdotes to make points. But we want to make sure Canadians like active listening, which is a good point in all of business, anyways. But making sure that we're adhering to active listening and empathy are important aspects of Canadian spoken word and spoken communication. Whereas in America, we're a little bit more direct and clear, but we want to make sure we're respecting the culture. So adapting would be polite, considerate of our speech when communicating with our Canadian colleagues and avoiding overly direct or confrontational language and start practicing active listening, which, like I said before, is an important aspect of business and life in general. Moving along to meetings. So meetings are generally structured and on time. The number one is in Canada and Canadian meetings, they are on time, they end on time, they like to have a structure. And in America, we're generally a little bit more flexible. I know most meetings that we have start 5 minutes late. They're always giving a little extra time. Or in America, we also will allow for flexibility. We'll start asking people questions. We're trying to be a little bit more collaborative and brainstorming. But the problem with that is that sometimes we can go over time. An hour meeting may go to 2 hours. Whereas in Canada, punctuality is very important and meetings will typically start and end on time. So a way that we can adapt for that is arrive on time, end on time, and make sure that we encourage participation from everyone as they are more of a collectivist. They want inclusivity of everyone that's there when they're making during the meeting and with decision making, as you'll see. So next we're going to talk about decision making. So in Canada, decision making involves seeking consensus, valuing the opinions from team and input from all team members, which is a collaborative process. And in general, in business, it is the preferred method, even though in America, we generally take top down, right? Leadership tells you what to do and everyone kind of just goes in order. We're changing a little bit in America towards the more collaborative workspace, but keep in mind in Canada, They want to hear from everyone, want it to be inclusive, and decision making is a little bit more of a consensus. Also, Canadians are risk adverse. In America, we're also a little bit more willing to take the risk for the reward, as we've all been taught. But in Canada, they're a little bit more cautious in their decision making. So the way that we can be prepared for decision makers, which is also like behavior economics and how people tend to work, and especially with different cultures, would be to be prepared to be collaborative, inclusive in the process, which, like I said, is the trend that America is going towards, but we're not quite there yet. And emphasize careful planning and risk assessment. So be prepared during our proposals to show them with details why we're making a decision if it seems a little risky, so that they will have a better understanding and be willing to make the decision that we're hoping to gear them towards. So the recommendations I really have for adapting are going to be everything we've mentioned before: mindful of our formality, politeness, consensus building, active listening, meetings with decision makers, making sure that we are prepared for the process that's going to be in Canada. We also have a couple different companies that I found that, although there is a cost involved, could be a good resource for us to hire, because the faster that we can have the Canadian colleagues get inclusive with our company, then the faster we start making a profit. And so the expense for the cultural Q or Berlitz companies that I found could be offset with the production once we are able to get into more of a rhythm with our Canadian colleagues. Here's this page of the PowerPoint, and if you message me, I can send you out the PowerPoint. Just has a little bit more resources. You'll see the page numbers throughout the presentation to help. And if you have any questions at all, thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. And I can't wait to work together to collaborate on how we can include our Canadian colleagues in our company in this exciting new merger.